Hello, in this video, I want to talk about the concept stage of a project and how it works with the earth element in my idea of elemental project management. We are going to talk about concepts relating to project management in this stage and also some emotions that might show up during this part of a project life cycle. Concept stage is when we bring down our idea that we have connected with the help of air in the initiation stage of a project, and we bring it down into earth. We give it a structure. We rooted it into this plane. So how we do that? Well, one of the key components is identifying the tasks that would help you create that project. Defining the tasks is a very particular thing because there is an aspect called granularity. This means how big the tasks are. The more tasks that you have to oversee means that there's a little bit more of managerial work or admin work, right? Because you have different little pieces that you have to keep tabs on. If you have fewer tasks, it is a little bit less managerial, but at the same time, the tasks are big, and that means that it takes longer to complete. And so we don't get that extra push that we get when we tick things off, because having many tasks helps us tick things off, and that helps us keep motivated and see progress through the project. You have to decide which way you want to go. I would advise that if in your project there are tasks that you know that you will be able to do yourself, you identify those as unique and as discrete, and you place them however big they are. You can play with that. If there are tasks that are for other people, I would also advise you to identify them as discrete, meaning I wouldn't include in the same task work that needs to be done by you and by someone else, because I feel it's much easier to keep track of workloads when it's only one person responsible for actually doing that work. So identifying your list of tasks is one of the aspects that you will do during this phase of the project. And that can be as easy as start writing down in a list what is it that you know that needs doing, and you start organizing it. You then start looking into, okay, how much time do I feel each of these tasks will need? And you start putting durations. And then you start thinking, okay, so which task goes first and what goes after? Because some things are going to be interlinked. Some other things are going to be floating tasks that could be done anytime. For tasks that you feel you are going to need support, it is much better that you get someone. You ask someone that is an expert on the matter before you assign a duration, if possible. Then when you have your task list and you have it in order, you start thinking about dates. When is it that you want to begin? And that would be the starting date of your first task. And you start building upon the durations and the dates. So for example, if your first task is going to start on the 1st of May and it lasts 5 working days, your next task won't be able to start until the following week of May, until the 8th of May. So this is how you start building an easy timeline. The timeline is the basic, almost mandatory graphic tool that you need for your project in this stage. That would be like the bread and butter of any project. There are other activities, other tools that you can use during this stage, depending on how big your project and your team are. If you have a team with a few people and you are going to be collaborating in the project, I would advise you to create a roles and responsibilities matrix. This graphic helps you identify all the tasks that are going to be done and by whom. But not only that, it will also help you identify what level of involvement each person is going to have. This is going to help a lot with accountability, responsibility, and also communications. To be able to do a RACI, this is how they are called. What you do is you get an Excel and you are doing a matrix. On the rows, you have the activities of your project, which you have already figured out. On the columns, you have the roles in your company. It could be roles per se, or it could be people. It depends. If you have more than one person doing the same role, and you expect both of them to have the same level of involvement in the project, then you can place roles in the columns. If you feel this is going to be very personal and each person is going to be doing something different, then it's better that you give the columns the names so that you have clarity. There are 4 things that you have to consider for each of the activities and each of the columns. RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So we start with A, actually. A is accountable. Accountable is the ultimate person that it is accountable for the delivery of the task. This does not mean that the A is the person that does the task, but the A supervises or the A makes sure that is being done. There should only be one A per task. This is to avoid the typical situation where 2 people think that they have to do something and they also think that someone else can do it. And so they don't do it because they think the other person is going to be doing it, right? So you place your A's for each of the tasks in the matrix. R is responsible. Responsible people are the ones that actually do the task. You can have more than one R because the task might be split between a few people. Although it would be better that each of your tasks that you outline there are discrete enough that only one person is going to do it. Sometimes this might not be possible. And so you can have multiple R's and then have an understanding and some sort of documentation for the project about that task so that every person that has an R knows what is it that they are going to be doing and avoid the situation of, I thought that the other person was going to do that bit. So you place your A's, which is 1 per task. You place your R's. Then the next step will be identifying your consulted. Consulted people are people that should be communicated about what's going on in the task. If there are decisions related to that task, they also have to be a part of that decision-making process. That is what consulted means. It means that there will be a communication, and what the person says, the person with a C, what they say has to be considered. Maybe it is not taken as it is, maybe there has to be some negotiation, but they have a vote in whatever is going. This would help you a lot with your communications. And this is why sometimes it is important or advisable to have key stakeholders or partners in your RACI matrix. So you see when there is something going on in a task, maybe you should inform or you should consult one of your key partners. Informed is the last of the aspects and means that for that task, that particular role or person is going to be informed. They cannot say, or whatever they say does not have weight in the way that it would have if they were consulted, but they need to be informed. So your communications need to account for that aspect. So this matrix basically what does is organizing all the responsibilities and the types of work that people will do, as well as the communications regarding the tasks. During concept stage, something that is also very important is creating a budget. Once you have done your timeline, you understand all of the tasks that you have to carry out or your team has to carry out. It is then much easier to understand the cost of the project because you can start giving a budget to each of the tasks and then do the tally up. You can do it by man hours or If you are outsourcing some packages of work, there might be that a person is doing a few different tasks and they give you a budget for all of those tasks. You can see how you can develop that, but that together with the timeline are two of the most important things to do in concept stage. Something else that might be useful for you on this stage is creating communication plans, stakeholder management plans, and risk management plans. There is a lot of information on the internet about these things. Something very simple could be a stakeholders map so that you know how much power and influence each of the people that you are going to have to deal with has over your project, and it will help you with your communications and managing their expectations. You can also develop a communications plan, very simple, looking into how many communications are going to send and what channels and how often, and a risk management strategy to identify the most common or probable risks and issues, and some strategies to implement if they become available. Basically, what you think about in concept stage is putting in place all the plans and all the systems so that when you get into execution, which is the next stage, everything is in place and you don't have to figure stuff out. You just follow the processes and the protocols that you have outlined. Obviously, things might change and you might have developed a communications plan or a risk management strategy, and that needs tweaking because plans are, in theory, good, but when we start executing, then things might need tweaked, and that's absolutely fine. But the idea is that through concept stage, you have defined all of your structure as much as possible. All of this work of putting the pillars of your project, so to speak, it is really, really interconnected with Earth element. Why? Because Earth is the one that helps us ground ourselves and have a structure. But it also helps us feel safe and trust and being able to be organized, which are key aspects of carrying out this stage of a project successfully. Because some of the emotions that might happen during this stage when we are not balanced is that perhaps we are not clear. We still have everything in our head in terms of air and vision, and we struggle to be concise and precise. We need to be very clear on our communications, on our strategies, and with our team so that everyone knows what they are supposed to be doing and there is little room for a mistake or error. How we can connect with Earth to be able to help us feel more grounded is as easy as having a walk on nature. If you live in a warm climate or you are currently in a warm season, it would be great if you can do that barefoot and start feeling how the earth enters and connects with your feet. Also, it can be very helpful laying on the grass and taking deep breaths and allowing, the energy to come out, and also feeling in how the energy from the earth comes into your body through all the points of contact. Imagine that you have roots and those are connecting you so that Mother Nature can enter into your space. As well, to be able to do this stage successfully, there is a level of being able to communicate and feeling safe so that everything is clear. And because it is a project that is relatively new, you are still in the forming stage of a team. There could be issues with people having to get used to communicate to each other and so on. So the more that you can foster a feeling of safety within your team, the easier it's going to be for everyone to be able to acclimatize to each other and together as well. So for integrating safety within yourself, is very important that everyone connects with their inner child, with the person, the little person inside of each of us that perhaps is feeling a little bit unsettled because of all this novelty, and perhaps feels a little bit anxious because there is a lot of uncertainty about what is going to be and the role that they have in the team. and how everything is going to work together. So being able to close your eyes and ask that inner version of you to come forward and be able to, in the beginning, listen to them. Don't recriminate them if they feel anxious. Don't be upset with them if they feel a little bit fussy, because we always need to try to parent ourselves in the way that we would like to have been parented. And so being able to listen and remind them to feel that they are safe, that you are there to accompany them, and that it's going to be okay, that they are not alone. It is a great way forward to start building a relationship with your inner child. Over time, you might need to do some more structured parenting and maybe remind them that now is not time to be fussy or stuff like that. But at the beginning, if you haven't done work with your inner child yet, it's very important to establish a positive relationship, and being there and listening in, it is the great starter. So I hope all of these aspects of elemental project management in the concept stage have been interesting. You can create a timeline to keep track of a project. That will be probably the only mandatory thing of project management, probably is creating a timeline. Then you can also create a roles and responsibilities matrix to help you identify what every person in the team is going to be doing and what is the grade of involvement. There are other plans and strategies that you can implement to help you keep organized, but at the same time, not feel a horrible burden of bureaucracy and paperwork. So I hope you have enjoyed all of this and has given you some ideas of how to introduce your own personal growth during the concept stage of a project.